Welcome to episode 19 of the Silver Savage podcast. This episode is brought to you as always by Masada Tactical, the only place to learn Israeli-based tactics. As a matter of fact, if you have nothing better to do, join us for Israeli-style pistol shooting class on Sunday, May 22nd. Go to training.masadatactical.com and sign up. Use the code SilverSavage10 to get 10% off when you do. This episode is also brought to you by Combat Iron Apparel. I just got back from Georgia where I got to hang out with the guys and gals at Combat Iron again. See the new lineup and of course add several items to my own collection. Go visit combatironapparel.com and use the code SilverSavage10 to get 10% off your next purchase of the best shirts, shorts, and my personal favorite, socks. This week we have on our show Eric Glass. Eric is the founder and owner of Rumson's Rum. Eric and his company, well, they make rum. Damn good rum at that. They are in multiple states as well as several international countries. Prior to establishing his own rum company, Eric worked for several national and international brands developing concepts and then taking his skill set to run his own. When he is not running his business, Eric likes riding his bikes, boating, and escaping pirates. True story, which we will hear about in a little bit. We sat down with Eric to learn about business development, getting into the spirit business, what is the best rum cocktail, and how to not get caught by pirates. Here's Eric Glass. So we are on. All right, Steve, you can't start doing that now.
Sorry.
Allergies in Maryland are
it's that time of the year.
It is. So we're here with Eric Glass from Rumson's, right?
Yes.
And I do have my collection. And I'll be honest, before I let you introduce yourself, first of all, Steve is Puerto Rican, so he had some experience with rums before. I on the other hand, drink whiskey and beer. And it wasn't until Danny introduced me to your rum. I'm like, you know what? I can actually drink this without having to mix it with anything. Because people always told me, you know, rum and Coke, Captain and Coke. That's all I knew. And that did not appeal to me.
Yeah. No, there's definitely rums out there that you got to drink naked. And I've yet to try that. So I'm a little upset with you, BK.
So you haven't tried it yet?
No,
I have not.
No,
actually, no, you did. Let me try, I believe, the coffee one. Was it the coffee rum?
Yep.
Yes, it was delicious.
Perfect.
Yeah, coffee rum's going to sneak up on you because it's still 80 proof, and most people don't realize that, and it goes down easy.
Listen, I'm Caribbean, 80 proof. I was drinking when I was 5 years old.
Yeah, the first little sip tickles a little bit, then it's gone. Pretty easy.
So, Eric, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us where you're from, what you do for our audience. They kind of get
obviously, I'm a rum maker, and I was going to bring a bottle, and I didn't bring one in here with me. I am from the North Shore of Boston, Massachusetts. I grew up here, so kind of grew up in a maritime environment. Small town just north of Boston on the coast. I'm in Salem right now, which is it's actually a city, but it's still kind of, even though it's pretty big, it's small town feel. When I grew up, and this influences a lot of me, I grew up with all my great uncles and aunts, 8, I think, were still alive when I was around. My great-great-grandfather, my great-grandfather on both sides. So a lot of family history really kind of drove who I am here. I grew up, my town was about 20,000 people, but I kind of knew everybody or everybody knew me. So today I'm a rum maker. I was in corporate America for a long time, working in consumer goods, but mostly healthcare products. And I've got eczema on my hands right now. So like things like creams, this is Vino, but I didn't work on them. But I worked on Neosporin and other things. I developed an affinity for rum, not because I was born in the Caribbean, but because I spent a lot of time in the Caribbean. So enjoyed it. That's kind of what got me into it. But I, small town guy, sort of. 20,000 isn't that small, but up here it's pretty small and a really small town feel. And it's a peninsula sort of area, so a little bit isolated from what's around you, which influences you. Friendly people, you borrow somebody's car, you return it with a full tank of gas type of thing. So that's sort of the mentality I grew up with.
That doesn't happen in Baltimore very often.
Yeah.
They usually borrow your car without telling you.
So Eric sends me his bio and some pointers that we have to discuss. And honestly, when I reached out to you, it was because I was introduced to your rum. I thought it was great. Our podcast is for men in our age group. and we concentrate a lot on the warrior side, but lifestyle is a big thing. And obviously, having something other than Bud Light is always, good. So we figured that would be great. But then you send me all these other things that you do, from sailing, kayaking, fighting pirates, and I want to talk about all
I didn't fight them. I ran away. I'll be honest. I ran away from the pirates.
Well, you know what? We got to talk about it because both Steve and I have a maritime security company as well. Yeah. And I've been doing that for 20 years now. I'm yet to actually see a pirate, and I've been looking for them.
You don't want to.
So here's the thing, Eric. We kind of do in a sadistic way. When BK told me, hey, he actually had to confront pirates, I actually got jealous. I was like, oh, that's so not fair. Like, every time I go looking for them, they don't show up.
So let's talk about the pirates. Let's get it out of the way.
I enjoy life. I'm a boater. I ride a motorcycle. I used to mountain bike. I raced BMX when I was a kid for Schwinn. So I tended to do those, what used to be extreme sports. I guess today they're really not, like individual sports, rollerbladed crap like that. I think I'm down to my last life. I think I had 9, and I've chipped away a few. I've had a motorcycle accident. I've survived. I've actually had 2, survived it. One, I went down the highway, slid next to a truck. I got to tell you, an 18-wheeler's tire next to you is pretty damn big.
Yep.
Broke a foot, tore some ligaments, did some other things. So, my body's a little beat up, and that leads to kind of who I am too. You got to survive these things. The pirates, I got a pretty small vessel. It's a 26-footer. One of my bucket lists was to go over to Bahamas by boat. When I was a kid, I never had my ears pierced or anything like that. And I always figured one day I would if I ever sailed across the equator and back. That was the reason maritime people used to get ears pierced. I don't know which one or whatever, but I'm like, I'll get my ear pierced whenever I do that. But wanted to go to the Bahamas. So I wanted to go to the Abacos, which is about 200 nautical miles, 210, 215 normal miles. My boat is pretty quick. It'll go almost 50. I took it I drove it down to Florida, went from Jupiter over to West End, Freeport, Grand Bahamas, all the way around to the Abacos. And weather forecast was supposed to be premium. It was shit. Rough seas heading over there. We checked into West End, decided we're in the Caribbean now, turquoise seas. Let's get some beers and Cuban cigars. In addition to rum, I like the Cuban cigars. I like the good rum and cigars mix. So we checked in, did customs, got, ready to go, got some fuel. And a local said, well, we can go get some beer for you. We can't get cigars, we'll get beer. I think when he did that, he called ahead and said, we got this boat coming around. Brand new Yamaha outboards in the back. They steal boats down there. It's for transporting people and drugs, smuggling. If you Google it, you won't find anything about piracy in the Bahamas. It doesn't exist. They steal boats, they steal motors, etc. So I prepared for that, set my boat up that you couldn't easily get the motors off, had locks and stuff installed. And I guess if they get frustrated enough, they'll cut the whole transom. But we left West End. We're coming around in Freeport. There's the Lucayan Waterway. It goes from the southern side of the island of Grand Bahama to the north side, which is sort of the cruisers channel. I'm in 3-foot chop, 20 to 30 mile an hour winds on our nose. And this boat, we'd stopped because we had some beer, so we needed to stop and take a break off the back. And this little boat goes by us. And as it goes by us, it swings around the shore, and my buddy's with me. And I'm like, maybe they're fishing. There's nothing around there. I've studied the charts. There's no water. And they come back out, and they basically set up a course to T-bone us. So I speed up a little bit. We're only going 20 miles an hour because the weather's so shitty. I speed up to maybe 25. So they're no longer on a course to intersect us. They start waving. I'm like, maybe they want to sell us drugs. I'm like, I don't want the drugs. I just want to get to the freaking Bahamas. So we speed up a little bit more. They're totally waving now. They're running parallel, and they kept sliding closer and closer and closer. Sped the boat up to about 35 miles an hour. And in those seas, it's just dancing. It's on the stern of the boat, just bouncing around. They followed us for half an hour, slipped into our wake. slowly broke away. And in the process, I have a seat leaning tower. I broke the leaning tower, so we no longer got something to lean against. We're holding on to the T-top and throttle's trying to go. The T-top cracks in 4 spots. But they broke off after about 10 miles and outran them. We still had another 80 miles to go at that point. Another 5-6 hours. It was shit. On the way back, we got pursued again for about 5 minutes. Calm water, so I just floored it. But I got to the Bahamas and I told my story. I had to tell it to the constable down there and some other locals. They're like, oh, we don't stop for anybody. There's always pirates around. I'm like, I've been coming here for 20 years. Never heard a thing about a pirate. So I ran. You know, my marina before I left was like, you got to bring guns. There's pirates. I'm like, I don't know. I got my flare guns. I got a piece of hickory. I got a gaff. I got a knife. You know, let's be honest. If a boat's going to take me, I'm going to T-bone them and take them out. I just never expected it. So got chased and ran away. Best course of action I could think of.
Yeah, 100%. Oftentimes we tell people, it's like, if I don't have to deal with it, you know, nobody wins in a fight. There's the person that loses less. So running away is valid.
There was another boat that I talked to in the marina when I got down there. Guy from Boston Sailboat. When he travels, he always has an X-Green beret with him. And he said, where were you? And I explained, which Chub Key's way north from where we were. He's like, we got pursued there too. My buddy always fires a shot. And not to shoot it, not to kill anybody, but the thinking is they don't want a fight. So he's like, if we see somebody and they're not responding, he fires a shot and they took off. So he got pursued, sounds like by the same people. We ran, he scared them away.
We did find, when I was running security from the Caribbean, we used to dive under the boats of our clients to search for pods, because the drug dealers would magnetize pods to the bottom of the vessel. And essentially, you would be bringing their drugs into the U.S.
Huh.
So we would have to go and sweep and make sure it's all clear.
I can't even imagine.
Yep. So a bunch of fun friends and what was that, Steve?
I said Eric might want to check his boat.
Ah,
He's probably sitting on $5 million right now.
Yeah, it's been a while to want to go again, but I'm ready to try it again. I know what to expect now, and you know, I will get a stainless steel shotgun. And someone said a Mini 14, I think it is. They make a stainless steel mini semi-automatic weapon that I'll probably have on the boat in the future if I'm going to do something.
So if you ever need security, we'll do it for free. Just let me
all right. I go offshore all the time. That's my op modus. You know, I 10 miles out, 16 miles out. Like that's.
You'll win with us, Eric, because we work for rum.
All right.
We do work for rum.
I got a lot of rum.
So actually, before we continue, I have 4 bottles here, and I have an empty glass. Which one should I open? I have the gold rum, the coffee rum, the spiced rum, and
what do you normally drink?
I had the gold rum and I had the coffee rum before. I did not have the spiced one.
If you weren't drinking rum, or if you do drink rum, what would you normally like? You're gonna sit down and have a beer. You're gonna sit down and have whiskey.
Either have IPAs or bourbon. That's my 2 go-to.
The bottle on the far right for me, closest to you. Yeah, oaky. So that's an aged rum. And somewhere along the line, I think you pre-asked me about like what do people do besides the rum and coke type thing.
Yeah. How do you drink rum?
Unless you tell me you drink gin or maybe a vodka, I'm going to struggle a little bit. But if you drink something else, I can tell you where to go, whether it's beer or something else. There's something for everybody, whether it's us or another rum brand or multiple rum brands. That rum is an aged rum, and I've tweaked the formula a little bit, which we'll talk probably at some point about developing it. Oaky, look on your lips at first. It's going to feel more like a whiskey. It's not going to have the bitterness that a whiskey would have at the end.
No, this is smooth. This is really smooth.
Yeah.
This
Maybe we'll have to open it up a little bit, like a teeny ice cube or something. I wouldn't put ice in it, but an ice cube just to let it open a little bit.
Okay. Awesome. How did you get into making rum?
You know, I love the Caribbean. I've been going for a long, long time. Typically the Bahamas. I've been to most of the islands of the Bahamas. I've been to Bermuda. I've been to Trinidad, Tobago. I've been to South America, Costa Rica. Bahamas is sort of what I love. I ride a Harley, which we briefly talked about. And, you know, I like skunky beer. I'll be honest, you know, clear bottle, green bottle, Heineken, Beck's, Corona type stuff, Bud. I like a skunky lager. I've been to Czech Republic. I like all the Pilsners there. I like champagne, and I pretty much like rum and tequila. Like that's sort of my world of drinking. I wanted to like Scotch. I had this idea in my head. I'm going to go for a ride for the Harley. I'm going to come back home and I'm going to sip on a Scotch just like you're doing. You know, I used to New Hampshire liquor stores up here and things are cheap. So I used to always shoot up across the border, get something, bring it back. Probably not supposed to be saying that. We're not supposed to transport liquor across state lines. So I'd go and look there and then I go back and buy it in Massachusetts. But I never could figure it out. The distinctive sort of whiskey bitterness, and it goes with bourbons too, but Scotch with the peat, you know, you get to the burnt rubber stuff. I couldn't acquire the taste. And everyone's like, oh, I got to acquire the taste. I'm like, I don't get it. Guy I used to work with is like, you ought to try a sipping rum. I'm like, what are you talking about? I've been drinking rum since I was a kid. I was a Mount Gay and tonic kind of guy. If you grow up in the water around here, you're either Mount Gay and tonic or you're like a Gosling, Stark, and Stormy. It's probably down like in Annapolis and Maryland too. You probably experienced that, but that's what you see in the coastal environment. So I love Mount Gay, or I did, and I drink it, you know, mostly with tonic, leaning towards more straight. You know, I wouldn't have called it a sipping rum. Still had, you know, some bite to it. So he gave me a list of rums to try. I started trying them. I liked them. I'm like, I get this I can do. Give me a bigger list. His wife was a chef, so knew about a lot of things. And then I started experimenting. I've got a collection. It's actually here in the building, some of the room, probably about 200 different bottles. Cuban rums, non-Cuban rums, you know, they're all supposed to be worthy of sort of sipping. They're not, you know, there's quite a few are. So I really started enjoying sipping rums. I enjoy in the Caribbean, the rum punches. Like I like a pina colada. I got to tell you, you know, like all those drinks I enjoy, and they're mostly rum based, but you know, you go down there, there's always some sort of rum punch. It could be the Nipper special or, you know, something else. It's going to come in a gas can. They're going to pour it out. But I really enjoyed it. I was in corporate America for a long time, and I worked on consumer goods. So I was doing a lot of go-to-market, whether it was sales or marketing, and was itching to kind of start a new business. I was an entrepreneur years ago, had wanted to do something sort of Caribbean-based because it was, you know, I like it. I have a huge collection of Bahamian music. I like the whole, I don't like my pirate experience, but I like the whole romanticized version of pirates, whether it's the Johnny Depp movies or the ones from years ago, the cartoon ones. So I liked all that, you know, kind of setting your own rules and you're living your life, not the Somalia killing and hostages, but, you know, out in a boat, exploring, you know, seeking your way to make some sort of living, you know, finding treasure, whatever it may be. That romanticized version's appealing. So I was trying to think of something Caribbean based. I couldn't afford like trying to develop an island in the Bahamas. And I've been reading about micro distilleries booming. So I'm like, I'm going to look into this and figure out how to do it. And I really started diving into micro distillers, researching it online. You know, there's some years before when I quit and when I did quit, there's some hurdles there that I'll talk about. But then, you know, went into distilling school, researched the federal requirements, and really just got into it and figured out what the opportunity was. I talked to some players to figure it out. And then I quit. I quit my job in 2012 and really started developing the business. 10 to 12 when I was still working was sort of, let me think of some ideas. I developed the logo. I incorporated or LLC'd the business, did the paperwork for it in 11. 12, 13 into 14 was really, okay, now I got to make this work. Let me figure out what I need to do from the business perspective. I bought a lot of bottles of rum and had people try them to figure out what people liked. I mean, I can make what I like, but I also need to sell it. So what are you going to like? I wanted to make the sipping rum, which is the one you're drinking. I didn't think I could survive on just one rum. So I used to have a rum called Rum. It's now the Gold Rum. And then I made the spiced rums to sort of bridge that. In 13, I started experimenting out back a little bit. And then going into 14, I was doing that as well. The federal government, if you remember, went on sequester. And I got stopped. I couldn't finish my licensing, couldn't get brand label approvals, couldn't get formula approvals. So I had time on my hands, and I started thinking maybe I should make a coffee rum. It's this coffee stuff that's pretty big up here. The number one spirit in Maine used to be a coffee flavored spirit, so I started doing that. It's sort of Dunkin' Donuts espresso-y based more than it is probably Starbucks based. I think it would probably appeal to both, but I'm a New Englander, so I lean towards the Dunkin' Donuts side. But really 12 and 13 was, I secured the building, started securing equipment, and really developed ideas on how to get to market with it and what the product should be like. We've had an evolution. I've changed bottles. I've changed labeling a little bit. I've tweaked formulas a little bit. But, it was, quit my job, figuring out and doing it.
So I see your logo, since you mentioned it, is a boxer. One of the pictures you sent me, it's you with two boxers.
Yeah.
So I assume...
they're both influencing that. Goliath, who was fawn colored, they've both passed. Last couple of years have been tough for a lot of reasons. That's one of them. I've lost both my dogs. So Goliath I had prior to Rumson, and Goliath was the likeness, and I designed that logo in 2010 with a graphic designer. And then I got the second dog in the process of doing it. The name of the business is Pirate Dog Brand, inspired by that sort of romanticized version of pirates. But my Goliath was scarred up. He'd been attacked by animals. He used to have a funny sort of birthmark on his belly. Always on the boat with me is my pirate dog. So that's kind of what inspired the name of the business. Not a strong brand name, but in the process, I got a second dog, and I wanted to sort of name him after the business. I like the band Mumford and Sons, so I'm like thinking Rumford would be a good name. I was thinking of that. And in my family, I told you, like, everyone was still alive when I was growing up, great grandparents, great uncles, etc. My dad is an Emery. It's an old English name. His father was an Emerson. My great grandfather was an Emerson. My mother's brother's an Emerson. My mother's father was an Emerson. My great grandfather on both sides was Emerson. It goes all the way up. Emerson is son of Emery. I'm like, Rumson, son of rum. So that's what drove the name. I was trying to think of names for the business afterwards, or the product, and I was thinking Rumson Key, Rumson Bay. Consumers liked it from who I could talk to. And then I don't like the key in the bay, and I just dropped it. So it's named after one dog. The likeness is the other. They really both look the same, but I can't say I had Rumson when I designed the logo. So
very cool. So as an entrepreneur, obviously, Steve and I myself, we face a lot of challenges in our industry, and your industry, just from a consumer standpoint, aside from all the, I guess, the red tape you have to go through, there's also a huge growing competition. There's a lot of microbreweries and micro distilleries that are popping up. So how do you differentiate yourself?
I focus. That's a really good question, and it's an interesting market, and you kind of called it out. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my old world. So I used to be on the Visine brand or Neosporin brand. In both of those brands dominate the category. So in eye drops, Visine used to be the number one player, probably 30% of the share of that drop market. Neosporin's, aside from private label, is pretty much the market of antibiotics for a wound. Listerine, same thing. So I came from a world where you launched, Diet Coke, for example, is probably half the soda market. Your product owned the category. If you look in alcohol, distilled spirits is a perfect example. Tito's is number one right now. I think Fireball might be number two. I can't remember. None of them are huge shares. They might be 10% share or 5% share. Number one and two in rum is Bacardi and Captain Morgan's. They're both fairly small shares. If you look at the other players like Mount Gay, which is what I was familiar with, or Gosling's, they might be 1 or 2%. So it's a fragmented market. And it's kind of funny coming from another world where I could own it. I'd go in to talk to Walgreens and say, this is how you ought to think about setting up your shelf. We're going to do this to help you drive the whole category, blah, blah, blah. You don't do that so much in booze. I mean, Bacardi is a big, huge player, and Captain's is a big, huge player. Like Captain's is part of Diageo, and Diageo has Kettle One and Smirnoff and a whole bunch of others. So they have a huge presence in their category, and they can influence shelf. but no one brand does. So there's opportunity, I think, for everybody. Microbrewers, we went through it in the 80s. We're going through it again now. The market now, I think, is led more towards almost hospitality. You do see a lot of cans and shelf when you go into the store, and it's a huge presence in the store. Unfortunately, microbrews are still about 20% of volume, craft, compared to the rest. The bulk of the volume in beer is still lagers, so Bud, Heineken, Beck's, etc. And I think it leaves an opportunity for everybody to carve out a little bit of niche. I target really high quality rum. I want to make the best rum in the market. I have a slightly different model, and then I'm a blender. I don't fully distill everything here. I go source barrels that are pre-aged out in the Caribbean. And I do that because when I quit my job and went to distilling school and was ready to buy equipment, the guy selling me equipment said, "You're not going to make the rum you want to make." I'm like, "What do you mean? I quit my job. I'm doing it." He's like, you really ought to launch a whiskey. If you're going to open a distillery, open a whiskey or a gin, because you can get a fairly high price back and get to market pretty quick. But most players are fairly small. There's another player down the road from me. A lot of their money is made. Really, they have a speakeasy there. So they make money off the bar. They're making $10, $12 a cocktail. It's hard to go from that $12 a cocktail, say, let me sell you a bottle, or let me tell you to go to the store where I've sold the bottle, or let me tell you to go to New Hampshire where I've had to sell it to a distributor. My margins are much less. My model isn't that. I want to be a manufacturer. I want to make a really good product, and I want to tell the story about that product. So unlike like a Jose Cuervo or even a Bacardi's like bring out the night is their tagline. Jose Cuervo is, I think, have a story. And I think it's Keith Sutherland in the commercials. It shows him drinking, and that leads to the stories he's going to have. The pirate story we had earlier, I think my rum is for the people that have their stories to tell. And this is going to be something you can enjoy while you're telling your stories. I don't want you to get shit-faced. I don't know if I can say that.
You can say whatever you want.
And then, have your story because you did something stupid because you had too much of my booze. I want you to have an interesting life already. And now you're talking about, and this is your social lubricant, whatever you want to do it, because you're really enjoying it. I try to be competitive on the price. I create unique flavors. I think my packaging is unique. And I try to make pretty much the best quality rum out there. So we're going to continue to expand it. We're going to make some changes here, but that's really the difference in what we're looking for. We go after sort of active, adventurous type people. Like up here, I do a lot in the boating environment because that's low hanging fruit for rum drinkers. And it's fairly easy for me to get into being on the coast. So.
And with our listeners, you're getting all the first responders most likely and the savages at heart.
Yeah.
So I think that fits in.
That's it.
This is the challenge that I'm having, though. Yeah. I can't get your rum in Maryland.
I'm working on it, and the last couple of years have set me back. So we were getting ready to go there, and pandemic happened.
All right. Well, let us know if you need a distributor in Maryland.
Do you know one?
Steve is all about it.
All right.
Actually, we do have connections. So.
We do.
And there you go.
Well, we can talk offline about that.
Well.
So what's kind of like the next chapter for Rumson's and for Erik Glass?
So right now I'm pitching for investors. I had launched in December 5th, 2014, which happens to be the anniversary of Prohibition, not on purpose, purely just, federal government gave me a licensing. I got my labels approved. I started getting raw materials together. I pulled them together. I was up all night, the 2nd and the 3rd, trying to make blends. And then I had product on the 4th or the 5th and went around and pitched it as much as I could. Store locally picked it up and a restaurant locally picked it up. That was the first day it was available. I've honestly, the last few years have been sort of concept. Yes, we've had a business and I've tested out flavors and I've tweaked some. I've tested out packaging and I've tweaked some. So that's new bottles. The Grand Reserve is still an older bottle, but they were painted at one point. Now we've gone to a debossed bottle. I can make them all the same. It makes it easier for me to launch flavors or manage inventory. When I had them painted, if I was off on my forecast, I was kind of screwed because they're painted and I have to do something with them so that I can manage them more. So the last few years I've been learning, like, how do I best package? How do I best formulate? Are there other formulators I could create? I'm playing with barrels out back right now. Experimenting with markets, like how do I get to other states? So we've been in and out in New Hampshire. We're in Rhode Island. Countries, we're in Western Canada, British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan. We're in Czech Republic. So experimenting really with how you play in these areas and trying to optimize it and what's really the best way to support it from a marketing standpoint, which for us is really hand selling. We do a lot of events. We do a lot in store. We got to sell to a store, so go out and visit them. We got to sell to a restaurant. March of 2020 to Memorial Day last year, I couldn't do any of that. So we were from 19 going into 20, we had 2 distributors lined up that would have led to either 6 to 15 states, Maryland being one of them. And it came to a halt because everything came to a halt. Last year was more painful. So we're in the process of pitching for investors. Really, I'm in a 3,200 square foot building right now. We're busting at the seams. I have some fire code things that I'm pushing on right now. So we really need to start to push to a new building, change the process and equipment a little bit. And then we can start looking at the markets to really get behind them. So I'm trying to get new building, better bottling equipment or bigger bottling equipment. We're trying to develop a rack house where we'll age things internally, get a little more control. I've changed the gram reserve. I'm going to tweak it again. I'd like to get a little more vanillins coming through. So I want to get more control of that in-house, but also allow me to do some special barrels here and there. And then we can experiment with, people ask me about pineapple. People ask me about coconut. They ask about some other citrus flavors, but those two come up a lot. So can we do something with that? People ask me a lot about a white rum. I'm not really a clear liquid drinker. And honestly, anything you can do with a white rum, you can do with that gold. It's just, if you make like a mojito, it's a dirty mojito. It's going to look a little darker. Really, the only difference is in the way I would make a white rum, because I'd want it to have more flavor, would be I'd filter that. I'd run it through either charcoal filter or a super filter and pull the color out of it. So I get asked the question. I'm not sure if it's worth it. I'm not going to put it on market cheap, because I'm going to end up using a better rum anyway. So we're constantly looking at flavors. I'm always kind of experimenting out back a little bit. I've experimented with like a maple spice. There's a guy locally that makes maple syrup. So I experiment with his maple syrup. He usually samples it. So that's something we're experimenting with. I'll start experimenting with some other flavors. Bottle sizes. We get asked about nips all the time. I don't know if we'll go to a 50.
Sorry, for the layman people like me. What's a nip?
Small bottles. Those little ones, like Fireball. You often see those little bottles.
Got you.
Soccer moms put them into their bags and they carry it around. So I'm thinking of maybe a double size, like 200 ml or something. I can make it more affordable. It can get people to try it. People can bring it with them when they want to. You know, do we look at a handle, like twice the size of that bottle? So offer value. But we're looking to expand more markets, a little more control of the operation, more flavors.
That's awesome.
Maybe a rum-based gin.
Rum-based gin.
So a lot of people have asked about gin. I'm not a gin drinker. I've got stories from when I was a kid, but I'm experimenting, with the idea of it. I have a pretty good palate for things. All those are based off of my palate. So that's some of the hurdles I've faced too. Not that we've talked about hurdles, but I wanted to quit and start a business in 2010. I blew up my back. I had a surgery in 9 and 10. I finally quit in 12. Had some issues. I have had a medical emergency a couple of years ago. I had a stroke, and I may or may not have had a small stroke afterwards. Lost taste. So I couldn't formulate it. I couldn't taste a goddamn thing. So that was a challenge. Luckily, all my current formulas are written down, but I was trying to experiment with like the maple thing. I'm like, I can't taste it. I know we've done a couple things in the past. I was trying to tweak it. I don't know what it tastes metal to me.
I'll be more than happy to taste for you.
Did you get your taste back?
I do. I have it back, but that you don't expect these things. Pandemic, I didn't expect. The federal government, I didn't expect.
That would sound
Losing
awful
taste
to me.
buds was not what I expected. So.
Yeah, losing taste. I heard a lot of people that COVID.
I heard that too.
And I was just like, that would be the worst. I like steak. I like red wines. I like both. And if I cannot taste it, that would be horrendous.
It's tough. I didn't have COVID yet. But losing it from the other thing, yeah.
So let me ask you a couple more questions. Like, first of all, you said you ride a Harley. Both Steve and I ride motorcycles. Steve is more of a Harley person. I'm more of a crotch rock. I used to race for Honda.
Oh, wow.
So what kind of Harley do you ride, and what's the funnest tour you took?
I ride a Road King or a Police King, really. I've customized it, new wheels. It's a Road King Classic now. I put leather saddles on it. I put a Corbin custom seat. I've actually changed the bars a little bit more pulled back and more of a pistol grip rather than wide. I'm a cruiser now. It's my third motorcycle. I had a Yamaha Radian. I had a Katana. I laid down the Katana on the highway, so I'm not really on a crotch rock anymore. I'm more of a cruiser, and that's why I have this bike. I'm a big fan of the Harley 48 because that's probably more my riding style now. The biggest thing with this bike, I love this bike. My probably ultimate cruise was, I rented one actually, was riding from Fort Lauderdale down to Key West and back.
Oh, that sounds
great
like
ride, great location, long. Spent a few days there. It's a good place to be. I do some other rides, usually philanthropic around here, that are pretty good. I like those. They're escorted. So you just keep on riding, 40, 50 miles an hour. You get to a stop sign, you keep on going. So those are fantastic too. But I think my best ride was probably down in Florida. I've done stuff up in New Hampshire when the bike week's up in Laconia. I don't always get there for bike week, but I've ridden around up there, like up in New Hampshire in the White Mountains is what we call the Kangamangas Highway. Famous ride. In the fall, you get all the leaves and foliage and stuff, but it's a windy hill going up probably a few thousand feet and then a few thousand feet descent. It's a great ride too.
Sounds like fun. Steve, we should go there. Pick up Eric on the way. And
you say when?
I'm drinking afterwards.
All right,
absolutely.
Eric, let me ask you another question. So for us new rum drinkers, what's your favorite rum recipe?
My favorite, there's something there for everybody. I really don't drink coffee, I gotta tell you, but my favorite recipe is a pina colada made with that coffee rum. And
really?
You can do it the cheap way. You can go get Mr. and Mrs. T's pina colada mix. I gotta tell you, it's fantastic. It's easy to make. You put it in the blender, you pour the mix in, you pour that in, and it's done.
What ratio?
Whatever it tells you in the directions.
Okay, there's directions. Good,
a mocha frap, so another coffee based. It's about 1 part coffee rum to maybe half. Same thing with chocolate milk. So if you did a cup of coffee rum, you do 2 cups of chocolate milk, or maybe 1 and 1 with ice blended up, and you get a mocha frap. It is unbelievable. You're only going to have maybe one. You're going to get knocked in your ass.
I know what I'm doing for dessert tonight.
I like old school daiquiris, like the Hemingway daiquiri, which is lime juice, a little simple syrup, and the gold rum. You might want to add a little bubbles or something to make it a little lighter, like a soda water. You can do the same thing with spiced. The Grand Reserve and spiced both knead in the rocks, like a squeeze of an orange wheel, really good. I like all the punches, going down the Bahamas. So if I'm in the mood for like a Caribbean-inspired hot day drink, I would do equal parts of citrus, OJ, lemonade, limeade, grapefruit juice, maybe a little bit more fresh lime. If it was a cup, I would do like a teaspoon of simple syrup and then gold rum and a spice rum float. That's really good. If you got vodka drinkers and they're like used to a mule or even just vodka and soda, I'd do the gold rum. That way, gold rum and ginger or gold rum and soda water.
I need to be writing this down.
A lot of them are on the website. Mai Tai is really good. There's an easy Mai Tai recipe.
I'm just listening to the rum stuff.
We'll have to take the playback later and write it.
I like sweet rums. I like spicy. I like sweet. So
I've been sipping on this reserve rum for the past, I don't know how long are we going? 40 minutes, and it's been freaking phenomenal.
I'm jealous. I'm going on a mission to get some Rumsons, and I'm going to talk to some locals and make sure they stock up on their shelves. So
I have some.
I see that because I
will give it to Eric.
I love rum. Look, I had rum rubbed on my teeth when I was teething as a baby.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
It's just and we'll get into trivia, but I mean, I'll give one of the answers away. But rum was used as a medicine, in historically. So
you got you got rum, honey, and is it ginger? You make into a tea.
Oh yeah.
I give it to Eric though. We kind of fucked up, Steve, you and I, because I reread the emails that we're going back and forth because we tried to pin down Eric for a few weeks, and he did offer to send us some merchandise, which included some rum.
You have to send me another email.
I'll send you another email.
I'll bring that rum over to a distributor I know and be like, "We need this right now."
Listen, you had the coffee one. I'm not a rum drinker. You know me. But this thing, I can sip, and it's awesome.
I've always been a rum. Well, it was not by choice initially, but culturally, and it's funny because I was telling BK, Bacardi specifically, and rum is not from Puerto Rico. I mean, the sugar cane was, agriculturally was produced there, but rum was not a indigenous Puerto Rican thing. It was more Barbados, Bahamas.
Is mojito a Puerto Rican drink?
I mean, that's
sugar cane and rum and lime.
Yeah, it's a culturally Caribbean drink. I guess is more of a safe.
It's a good drink.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, Eric, first of all, this is we call this podcast Over Savage because it's designed for the savages, warrior at heart, right? What do you do to kind of bring out the savage in you? Obviously, you're an adventurist, right? What are you doing these days to kind of?
I'm an adventurist. I'm always doing something. It's boating season, so getting the boat ready. When I go boating, I'm going to go offshore. I mean, that's sort of my adventure. I will stay local. I'll go up the next town and get pizza and ice cream, but I'm usually looking for that epic journey. Even if it's just going from the North Shore of Boston down to the Cape, I'm 10 miles offshore the whole way, which is, that's a boating trip. I still ride the Harley. I've built a motorized bike that I tool around on. I'm always kind of doing something.
Just make sure if you anticipate pirates, you let us know first.
Bigger boat and weapons.
And we got the weapons covered.
We got that covered.
The bigger boat.
You bring the rum. We'll cover everything else.
Well, I've got the rum.
So, Eric, first of all, I want to thank you for this time. But before we let you go, we finish each one of these podcasts with a little trivia for a guest, and we kind of gear it towards our guest.
Yeah.
So Steve is our trivia master, and I think this one is all rum centric.
Yes, it is all rum centric, which I was excited about because again, I've even when I shouldn't have been, I was drinking rum. So and just growing up Caribbean, Nicaraguan, Puerto Rican, rum was a staple. So few questions here for you, Eric, and it is all rum centric.
Greatest rum tasting is probably Rumson's.
100%. It's done. I got that one.
All right. So first question: if I asked you for a buttload of rum, how much rum am I asking for?
My God. I'm going to guess like a fifth.
Is that an actual measurement?
So a buttload is an Old English imperial unit of measurement. So yes, it is an actual unit of measurement used to measure more liquids than anything else.
Huh. And how much is it?
Originally wine. But if it's the same thing, if I ask for a buttload of rum.
So it's like
who's not that we talking
a barrel?
Gallons, yep. Think barrels and gallons.
Huh.
It's
on that.
Anything between 125 and 150 gallons.
That's a big butt.
That is a buttload. I mean, that's
That's where it comes from, a buttload.
that's 2 to 3 barrels. That's a lot.
It's an imperial unit of measurement. No longer used. It is obsolete.
Wow.
All right. You'll probably get this one, Eric, because you mentioned Mount. I just brain farted from the Bahamas.
Okay, Barbados.
That's Mount Gay, so which is historically an old rum and whatnot. So allegedly, and there's 2 answers to this that I've learned in the past. It debates back and forth. Where does rum originate from?
I would say the first distiller would be Barbados, and that I don't know if it'd be Mount Gay. I think they do claim to be the oldest distiller in the world.
So Barbados, it was one of the answers. They date back to the 1700s.
There is.
There was one challenging answer that was never solidified, but allegedly was
notes of rum being back in. I get brain farts since the stroke too. Like medieval times, Rome or somebody.
Well, they as far as documentation, it was the 1500s in Brazil.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a Dutch distiller in Brazil.
Yep.
So, but correct. Barbados is the.
I would go with Barbados. I would go with Mount Gay. I believe they're the oldest distiller in the world, being a rum guy. So,
speaking in this genre, everyone knows Mount Gay and Barbados. So,
Steve, let me stop you for a second. Just because I'm a complete idiot when it comes to that. I know beer is made of yeast and hops. I know wine is made of grapes. I know vodka can be made of potatoes mainly, but it can be made of other things as well. What is rum made of?
So rum is a sugarcane based product that has to be called rum. It could so you can have an agricole like in Haiti or some of the South American countries, which is fresh pressed, so it's just the juice of the sugarcane. You can make it from sugar, usually not a very good rum. I'm also not an agricole fan. I think it gets a little too grassy and a little bit bitter or hot. Then it's molasses based, so you can go through the whole grades of molasses. Most of the better rums surprisingly end up being the cheaper molasses, so the blackstrap molasses, which is sort of the byproduct. This is all around triangle trade period.
Yeah.
Up here. So rum has a huge history in New England. You'd bring up the molasses to the Boston, and you bring up some of the rum from the Caribbean. The better rum was the Caribbean rum. Up here, they turned the sugar product into rum, and they call it Kill Devil. And then it would get shipped over to Europe and sold and go around in circles again. But it's a sugarcane based product.
Interesting. Thank you.
Which also some people claim that's sort of where I don't know if there's going to be one of your questions, but this is where some of the name sort of comes from. So sugar is saccharum. So the belief is maybe rum name came from the Latin word for sugar, or sugarcane, which is saccharum.
That wasn't one of the questions because I figured that'd be an easy one for you.
It is now,
and you even mentioned it because Kill Devil is one of the nicknames for rum too for significant.
Very much New England rum and not very good.
Yes.
Isn't your sacrum your butt bone?
The sacrum is your butt bone. Yes.
I'm just saying.
I was born with a fused sacrum.
Rum.
All right, so two more questions. Yes, 2 more questions for you. This one's going to be an easy one for you because you're a pirate at heart. What country's military was famous for rum? And what branch, rather?
British Pussers, Navy rum.
There you go, the British Royal Navy.
Admiral Nelson's blood, which I don't know if you're going to get into this or not, but
no, we're not.
He died in the Caribbean, I don't remember where, and to preserve his body, the story is they put his body into the barrel of rum, and I was going to preserve it on the way back. And the sailors or the military or whoever's on the boat, the story is they kept on drinking a little bit out of the barrel, so that's how you get Admiral Nelson's blood.
Nice.
I just changed completely. what I want done to me when I die. Cremation, fire burial, a barrel of rum.
I'm gonna get hollowed out and turned into like a spout. Just fill my body with rum and stick a spout in me and pour right out.
That's how you get rid of the COVID too. You just gotta keep on fueling it.
That's I always joke that with my family. I'm like, just drink rum and whiskey, you'll be fine.
It's not gonna hurt and swirl around your nose and kill the germs as they're going in.
All right, so last one. You guys mentioned rum and coke. So rum and coke is traditionally called anybody? Was that
Cuba Libre?
Cuba Libre, right? Correct. How did that term come about?
I assume
I actually learned this in my studies.
I'm gonna assume somewhere around the time of.
So here's a clue. I learned this in my military history studies. So,
what's the clue?
That's it. I learned this while I was studying military
history. I don't know.
Oh boy. I assume it's Cuba related. It
is Cuba related,
and it's gonna be some. It was Was it pre-Castro probably or post-Castro? I'm gonna guess it's the liberation somewhere along there.
It's pre.
Guerrero, whatever his name was, maybe.
Guevara. No, it's pre. So it was actually after the Spanish-American War.
Yeah, makes sense.
U.S. troops liberating the Caribbean first introduced Coca-Cola in their rations to Cuba, and they mixed it with the rum, and the soldiers basically cheered up. Here's to a free Cuba, and
I gotta write it down.
Hence was born the Cuba Libre.
Well, that's why up until a few years ago, the British Army still had their rations, which was pussers.
Yes, correct.
Makes you a little bit more fearless.
Yes.
Improves morale, etc. Like that was.
Yeah, medicine, motivation, and reward. That's what rum was used for in the military.
Steve, we got to add this to our staff meetings.
What, rum?
Yeah, I mean, it improves morale.
Motivation.
Morale makes you fearless,
Absolutely. I'm all about it. I'll never say no to rum. Even if I don't like it, I'm going to drink it.
Well, I have 4 bottles that I can drink by myself. That's actually completely incorrect and not true at all. But Eric, I know you're a hard man to pin down, and we've been trying for a few weeks, and I'm glad you made the time for us. I thank you so much for this time. If anybody wants to get in touch with you or find out more information about Rumson's, where should they go?
Easiest thing is rumsons.com. There's a contact us thing in it. I will see every email that comes through. I'll respond to them, and I'll usually switch it to my personal email after that.
And you're also on social media, right? You're on Instagram and so forth.
I am. If you really want to contact me, go and get me an email. If you go to the contact us, it'll come through the thing. I will look at them all. So I will respond to it, and my number and everything will be on it at that point. Instagram, there's an agency that does it. I'll see it. I don't always respond. Facebook, things get kind of lost too because I don't always get the notice because someone else manages it. The email I do see, I have them all come through me. So I will read every single one and I'll respond to everyone, usually pretty quick.
I can't wait to have Rumson's in Maryland. As a new rum drinker, I am truly appreciating it.
Yes, I'm excited.
Thank you for making time to chat with us, and best of luck in your growth the next few years.
Thank you. We've been getting there. We were on a rocket ship in 19 going to 20, and then it's just getting things going. I mean, it's rum season now. That's partially why it's been hard. So I am out starting to do events. We're planning the boating season where we do a lot of things. We're trying to pitch. We're talking with distributors for other states. So this is when we get going. This is when we start visiting stores again. So it'll be busy now through October.
Awesome. And hopefully Steve and I can make a road trip out to Salem and maybe on our motorcycles and meet up.
Yeah. Sounds a good place to come.
Sounds great. Well, have a great weekend. Thank you so much for your time, and good luck.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, good to meet you, Eric.
Good talking to you guys.
Take care, buddy.
All right, we'll see you later.
Bye-bye. We hope you enjoyed this latest episode of the Silver Savage podcast. Please go ahead and give our podcast a like, share the link with a friend, and help us spread the word. You can follow us on social media as well. Instagram handle is silver_savage45. You can also find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and our YouTube channel where you can watch all these episodes' videos as well. More unique content, merchandising, and events are coming soon too, so make sure to follow.